Journeys ahead to Lineage. Chapter 4, Reunited. Written and narrated by T.S. ProArt. What was that? Jada asked with a sense of newfound fear in her voice. Everyone didn't know what to say to what they had just witnessed, but the feeling of being on edge remained at an all-time high. Stay here, Void gruffed out before retracting his blades and bringing forth his axe once again. Taking a few slow steps forward across the water, the Spark deployed his helmet again and scanned the smoke with his eyes, but found his sensors to be a tad bugged. Something was affecting its AI in an unseen way. However, Void soon realized he didn't need it, as a faint shadowed outline appeared within the sun's lighting cast upon the smoke. The shape started off with no definitive features. It was just a blob that looked to hobble forward in an odd manner. Wincing with a gruff, Void raised his axe up by his side, watching intently as the unknown shape continued to slowly walk towards him and his family. Approaching up by Void's side, Jada summoned forth a sharp burning blade from the roof of her hand, ignoring what the Spark had asked of her. Then approached Jet, Pofnu, and finally Sarv and Tucker, all prepared to fight by Void's side. Nock and Cod, however, just stood behind, knowing they couldn't fight without the Thumper or any other weapon that was left behind. From behind the blurry figure soon appeared another to its right, this one looking smaller with a long, slender shape, and what appeared to be flowing pelts at the waist. Then another appeared, with some kind of wriggling shape swaying from its behind. Then another to the left, this one looking taller and lankier than the other two. Another, and another, and another. It was a group of 7 unknowns, a large mass that sent Void's protective instincts into a complete overdrive. Closer and closer the figures came, with their outlines beginning to take more noticeable shapes, the middle of which being the first of them to walk into the light. The figure had the outline of a slim upper torso connected to a pair of strong legs with a lower cloak, these of which ended with heavy boots that splashed upon the freezing water. Then there was the head, a head that looked... Before the Spark or anyone else could make another estimate, the figure finally crossed through the light, revealing its tall form for all to see. What Void saw suddenly made his eyes widen and his axe to lower in his grasp. There, walking out and now looking down upon him and his family, was without a shred of a doubt another Spark, mask deployed, an arm blade ignited at their right side. Glowing orange eyes stared back through a similarly designed battle helmet, one with orange-purple plates and gold ridges. A beautiful orange Spark crest sat upon the figure's bulked-up chest, having been laced in a gold steel outline that glinted in the light. Their shoulder spheres were a bright yellow, connected to bronze gold rubber metal arms. A belt sat tightly concealed around their waist, that also had the Spark's crest insignia etched into it. More oranges, purples, and browns made up this unknown's nearly skin-tight armor that looked akin to the gods' metal forms from the statues in Salvaheim, with small etchings and symbols faintly chiseled into the craft. The last thing of note were the 6 horns upon their head, 6 brown, sharp, angled horns. Now having a similar reaction to Void, the other Spark's eyes widened to seeing another one of their kind. Lowering and retracting their blade, the orange-crested Spark took a slight step back in shock, in turn, leaving Void to drop his axe completely, something he had never done before. At that moment, Jada and the rest realized it too. They were all looking upon another Spark, a living, breathing Spark. Then from behind came another. This Spark was a bit shorter and skinnier than the orange one, and clearly a female. Like the other, she had armor and a lower pelt cloak that was outlined in golds. Instead of oranges and purples, hers was that of low reds, pinks, and grays. Her horns were akin to deer antlers, red with dangling ruby jewels near the tips. Like the other, she wore a helmet held onto a sharp candy cane-shaped steel weapon. Yet, the look in her eyes too fell to that of shock. Soon came forth two more. On the left was another female. She was tall and fit like the orange one, but had a long sharp tail swaying by her back. Two massive backwards purple blades protruded from her arms, while a helmet covered her head, leaving a clear lavender glass plate to reveal her face underneath. This appeared to act as some kind of breathing device for the spark. Her white eyes and scarred face squinted for a moment behind the visor, before suddenly whining with an automated gasp, leaving through a speaker below the chin plate. The spark beside her was tall as well. He had four long, hose-designed legs that ended with sharp crab claw-like feet that gave off a threatening aura. He had a color palette of greens, grays, and yellows that created an almost emerald shade upon his form. A double-bladed katana was held tightly within his hands, as another battle helmet covered his almost oval-shaped, sharp-horned head. Upon seeing Void as well, a set of green eyes beneath the visor expanded, whilst he lowered his blade all the same. Lastly came the final three. First emerged another female spark, who was an immediate contrast to the others. She was around the same height as the red one, but had a more interesting body design. Her form was of hot pinks, bright orange shoulder spheres, and lower green underarmor. Within her chest and shoulders were tons of speakers, looking unlike any other spark Void had seen before. Compared to the others, her head wasn't concealed in a helmet. Instead, a face with a small right cheek mole, ear set, and long flowing pink and metallic hair stared back with widened, cream-colored eyes. Beside her flew in the tinier spark. She was donned in yellows and blacks with big arms and boots. Her head was brown with wide yellow eyes, tons of freckles, and sharp horns. Upon her back were two glowing lemon-colored wings, and a big tail that Void and the rest identified that had been akin to a bumblebee, stinger included. Finally, a massive, bulky yellow spark with similar cloaked armor to the others appeared. The right half of his face was covered in a special kind of metal, while his left hand was a metallic claw compared to his regular right. He looked to be the strongest of the group, with broad yellow bronze steel arms that were tipped with elbow blades. This spark had a sash of potions around his torso, and a bright purple eye staring wide at Void in absolute shock to it all. Void and his group were silent and in disbelief as to what they had been seeing. 7 sparks. 7 living sparks stood tall before them all, looking just as shocked as they were. Slowly turning and looking upon each of them, Void's heart began to race and smash against his chest. It couldn't be, he thought. It couldn't be. They died years ago, he told himself. Taking a small, shuffling step forwards, Void raised his arms up in a worried gesture, and then retracted his mask to reveal his face to those before him and the rest. He recognized some of their characteristics. The purple girl's tail, the green's 4 legs, the red's antlers, and the center's horn and skin shade, coal gray with amber wood colors atop it. It couldn't be them, Void repeated on the inside. It couldn't be them. Could it? Core? Void quietly asked, causing the center spark's eyes to widen more upon seeing his face and hearing his words. With a slow click, the center spark's gold-tinted battle helmet retracted in a V formation, revealing the old, scarred, but recognizable face of the brother Void thought he had once lost. Void? Kornovison asked back, as the two brothers stared deeply into each other's eyes in utter disbelief. Kid? Atlas asked as his helmet retracted by a split down the middle, before collapsing behind his neck. The four-legged spark was definitely that of Atlas, Void recognized, just older and more tired looking than before.
Little one? Is it? How can this be?
Evelyn asked as her eyes softened behind the visor. No way. No way! Sika exclaimed as she too deactivated her helmet and covered her mouth in absolute disbelief. Another spark? Are my eyes deceiving me? Harmony asked as she rushed forwards and slid to a stop by Sika's side. With widening eyes, she covered her mouth as well, while Lee slowly took a step forward in a baffled stare. Void? She asked in a soft whisper. Void couldn't say anything. His glowing blue eyes were wide and unblinking. His legs felt the buckle, with his arms and hands ever so gently shivering. Void had cat tongue. He was stuck in shock, while Jida and the rest continued to gaze in amazement upon these unique and amazing-looking sparks. They had all heard the stories of their species, and especially some of these few. Kor and his friends, Atlas, Evelyn, and his girlfriend Sika. But Void thought them to be dead. Every spark outside of himself was thought to have perished. Yet here they were, ghosts from the past, still standing tall to this very day? Buddy? Kor questioned before reaching out a shaking hand. Flinching in response, Void took a step back and deployed his left arm blaster with an accompanying shout. Get back! Reacting with gasping steps backwards, Kor, along with the others, shuffled themselves away just a tad, along with the majority of Void's family. You're not real! You're not real! Void cried out as a face of anguish began to grow upon him. Void, what are you... Jida gasped out, being the only one to not take a step back. They're not real! This is some kind of trick of the mind, an illusion! Spouted the spark, as Kor slowly began to raise his hands up in a calming gesture towards his brother. Void, he expressed again, making the spark shake his head in return. No! No, you died! You all died! Years ago! Void began to shout aloud with his shaking arm cannon. Glancing to Sika, Kor released a shaken breath before looking back down to his little brother. Taking a slow step forward, Kor trudged his way through the water and carefully approached the now blue glowing spark. Void, it's me. It's us. This is no trick. Unless you're the trick. Kor began, while Jida gently placed a hand upon Void's shoulder. Blue, we see them too, she affirmed, making the spark shake his head again. No, you don't. You can't. How is this? I don't understand. The blue spark muttered as tears started to swell in his oval-shaped eyes. This can't be. This can't be real. He continued as Kor neared ever closer, while looking at Jida. He was unaware of who she and the others were that accompanied Void, but Kor was smart enough to know that she knew his brother well from the little gesture to his shoulder. With a shocked nod, Jida gestured for Kor to take the reins and took a small step back from the two of them. It's okay. It's okay. Breathe. It's me. It's us. Kor continued as he too tried to keep composure. Reaching out, he gently lowered Void's arm cannon, causing it to revert back into his normal hand. With quiet tears streaming down his face, Void gazed up upon Kor, who also began to leak from his noticeably orange glowing eyes. Carefully, the pumpkin-colored crested spark rose his hands up and gently held the size of Void's face. It felt unreal for the both of them. It was as though they were looking at dead men, It had been 15 years since the purge. Nobody could blame them. How can I know? How can I know? Void quietly asked as his whole body began to shake and break down with emotion. Staring on in silence for a quiet moment, Cor began to recite a set of words that Void knew all too well. Some of the last words he thought his brother would ever share to him. Did you kick Mom's butt? Was the only thing Cor could think of to say in that moment. Something so innocent and playful, now being a storming bullet that confirmed everything Void knew. Cor? Void weakly choked out before lunging forwards and embracing his brother. Without hesitation, the older Novus wrapped his large arms around Void in return. With crumbling legs, the two of them fell to be knee level in the water, just rocking back and forth in each other's grasp for a long few moments. As the brothers shared their reunion, Jida and the rest couldn't help but stare in awe at the sight, along with all the other sparks. Void! Oh, Void! Sika gasped with spilling tears as she too knelt and embraced him in Cor. I don't believe... She choked out as Void raised his head and nearly melted with emotions at the sight of Sika's face. Sika. He wept, for lunging forwards and hugging her fully. It was insane, yet incredible, everyone thought. Utterly incredible. How is it possible? You got so big. The Sparkette wept as her and Void rubbed foreheads. Now, slowly standing back to their feet and collecting themselves to the best of their abilities, Void turned from Sika and gripped upon Cor's right and left hand with a firm hold and brotherly shake, a sign of kindled companionship and refueled hope and joy. But through these puddles of love remained a sea of unanswered questions upon both sides. You got taller, Void weakly realized, while Cor huffed and replied with his own realization. So did you. After a small moment of silence, the both of them began to increasingly chuckle and shake their heads. There were so many questions and so many answers to give. The first of which, Jida had to say, Void? Is that? She began to ask as a spark continued to cry in astonishment. My brother, Cor Novison. Void introduced as he and Cor looked back towards Jida and the others. Upon seeing these new faces, Cor approached and extended a hand out for Jida and spoke with a wide and teary-eyed smile. Maokai! Do you greet people with Maokai, or is it just gibberish to you all? Cor greeted in his language, leaving Jida surprised, and then shaking his hand in awe silence. No, I don't speak it here, but guys, this is Cor, and this is Sika Rain's daughter. Cor's Void tried to speak before Sika introduced herself for him. Hi, yes, my name's Sika. I'm a Cor's lady friend, his partner in crime, kissing pillow, you catch my drift? She jokingly and awkwardly said, while wiping a tear and retracting her candy cane-shaped weapon. Yeah, and dearest Grace, these two here are Atlas Scrapeson and Evelyn Scorch's daughter. They helped me out of Salvaheim during the purge. Smirking and sheathing his katana away, Atlas stood upright and crossed his arms before speaking in a firm yet greeting tone. What's up? He introduced before reaching down and rubbing Void's head with an astonished smile.
Salutations,
came through Evelyn's speaker as she also approached Void and gave him a tight and tender hug. having missed the once little kid that used to bug her. Wow. It's an honor to... Wow. Jada gasped with an amazed face while gazing upon the otherworldly beings. More sparks. That was the last thing I was expecting. Nock joined in as the others behind just stared and waved. Void? Void Novason? Is it really you? Lee questioned as she nervously walked up with Harmony and Talos close behind. For a second, Void didn't recognize his little Sparkette until recognizing her eyes. Wait, Lee? Void asked, getting everyone's attention. Lee? He asked again, as the old friends now stared each other down with widened expressions. Rushing forwards, Lee nearly slipped before reaching her hands up and taking hold of Void's cheeks. Her eyes now began to swell with tears too, as memories of their childhood came rushing back. School, playdates. Her and Void were close friends, buddies that always had one another's back. Neither of them could believe it. Void? Lee began to weep, bringing on the waterworks within the spark once again. Lee, you're... The blue spark replied before getting tackle-hugged by the insectoid winged spark. You made it! You're alive! You... Lee started to sob with glee, as a sense of happiness fully washed over them all. I missed you so much! She shouted before letting go and rubbing the spark's forehead with hers. Hi! Don't think I've met you before, cutie. My name's Harmony. I'm a big music gal, and that angsty hunk of junk is Talos. Maybe you already knew that, but I don't know. It's great to meet ya. Harmony spoke aloud with a grin as both her and Void shook hands. Talos groaned with a nod as he turned away and began to look into a hologram diagram from his arm. It's great to meet you. Void replied to his fellow sparks before eyeing his found family. Everyone, these people here, these are my friends. My family. Void began as he gestured towards each one of them. This beautiful woman right here, she's my wife, Jida Woods. Void revealed, leaving Cora's eyes as well as the others to perk. Your wife? Cora asked with a small smile beginning to grow on his face. On the contrary, he squinted with her teary eyes, turned her head to the side, and then snapped her fingers in disappointment. Damn it, she whispered. Hi! It's... Wow, this is crazy. Wow. Jada introduced herself whilst reaching her hand out for the other sparks. Without a second thought, they took Jida's hand in theirs. One by one, they proceeded to shake it with a firm smile. Jida, it's a pleasure to meet you. Zia greeted, for all with a gentle tenderness to her voice, before glancing up at the others. Those two guys are Nock and Cott. The robot is my computer jet. Behind him are our other friends, Sarv and Tucker. Void revealed, gesturing to everyone else. And that fox is, well, she's kind of my adopted daughter, Pothnu. Void exclaimed, sparking new sets of emotions to course within his fellow sparks. I'm technically an uncle? Cora asked as he eyed the fox, who waved back. Well, if it ain't my pleasures to meet all of yous, come here! Sarv exclaimed as she approached Atlas and gave him a large hug, in turn, making the four-legged spark wince with a confused and uncomfortable expression. Look, oh, we gotta hug her. He groaned as he was lifted off the ground by Sarv's incredible strength. Pieces, I never realized sparks could get so tall. Nock said as he approached and gazed upon Evelyn, who looked back down upon the little man. Reaching her tail around, she gently clasped Nock in its claw-like shape and raised them up to be eye level with herself. Okay, up I go, I guess. Nock warily said as the both of them locked eyes.
You got a problem with tall, short stack?
Evelyn asked, making Nock's face perk with worry.
I'm just joking. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
Teased the sharp-tailed Spark before gently placing Nock back on the ground. Well, are those speakers? Pofnu asked as she approached Harmony. Yes, they are. Check it. The Sparker replied before suddenly playing a tune from them, leaving the fox astonished. Cool horns. Gotta respect a solid pair. Tucker complimented Sika, making her smile and wiggle them. Oh, same to you, big fella. Love how broad they are. Real nice. The Sparkhead complimented back as a sense of immediate bonding began to occur within the two halves. Kor was bewildered by it all. Not only was his brother alive, but he had a wife and a found family. Void had not only just survived, it seemed he had made a place for himself in this dimension. He and his friends found themselves crashed within. A sense of joy and curiosity burned deeply within Kor's soul, especially when glancing down towards Jaida's visibly pregnant stomach. Kor, what did you guys do to that creature? What was it and where'd it go? Void found himself stumbling through his words. His mind was still trying to piece it all together, to make it right. But it would need a few more hours to process it all, possibly even a week. There's much to discuss from both sides, it would seem. Kor elaborated before turning to Atlas and Evelyn. You two, scour the forest and make sure remnants of Abaddon didn't spread anywhere in full. I need to. Placing a hand upon Kor's shoulder, Atlas nodded his head in an understanding gesture before turning towards Evelyn. Come on, love. Let's make this quick. Expressed a large Spark before crouching down and leaping forward with an astonishing height and speed. Nodding and following behind, Evelyn shot forth her two purple blades into the tree line and followed behind Atlas in a pulling swing. Abaddon? Void asked with a curious tone. The beast that was approaching you and your family. Seeker revealed before transforming her arm into a strange device. It looked like a clear canister that had 3 sharp spikes protruding from the blaster-looking edge. Within the weapon's confines, there was a purple glowing energy that swirled around in a misty haze. It was the same glow that radiated within the beast's chest. Come, all of you. Let's talk. There is much we need to hear, and much I must explain. Kor stated before placing an arm around Void and pulling him in close. No kidding. The smaller Spark replied, before looking to the side, still in a state of complete disbelief. Hey, just a quick question. Why are you wearing pants? Harmony asked as they all began to march ahead. Much to discuss. Kor stated again, all while Talos led the way in a silent manner.